any salary, nor had they any necessity for such salaries. The state would get the best advice without expenditure. They were themselves Samadarshi, equal to everyone, both man and animal. They would not advise the king to give protection to man and instruct him to kill the poor animals. Such council members were not fools or representatives to compose a fool's paradise. They were all self realized souls, and they knew perfectly well how all living beings in the state would be happy, both in this life and in the next. They were not concerned with the hedonistic philosophy of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. They were philosophers in the real sense, and they knew well what is the mission of human life. Under all these obligations, the advisory council of the king would give correct directions, and the king or executive head, being himself a qualified devotee of the Lord, would scrutinizingly follow them for the welfare of the state. The state in the days of Maharaja Yudhishthira or Maharaja Parikshit was a welfare state in the real sense of the term, because no one was unhappy in that state, be he man or animal. Maharaja Parikshit was an ideal king for a welfare state of the world. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaushal Mapuji. So this one, Prabhupada, very beautifully, the beauty of Prabhupada's purports are a lot of things. First of all, there is a philosophical understanding. There's a practical application, and there's a connection to the contemporary world. And, all the three are beautifully, intertwined in such a way that you get a very good digest of how to apply this principle, the shloka, in our day-to-day life. Now, first thing that Prabhupada calls out in the purport is the real qualification of a devotee, the qualification of Maharaj Parikshit. Right? First of all, his qualities are foretold by all the Brahmanas and philosophers, sages. And when Maharaj Parikshit basically exhibited those qualities, it was evident that he was a great devotee of the Lord. And essentially, he's a first-class devotee or a Mahabhagavata. Right? And what is the additional qualification of a Mahabhagavata is ability to convert others to also become a devotee by his instructions. Now, ISKCON, Prabhupada's movement, is a preaching organization. Right? We don't keep all the goodness to ourselves. We distribute it freely to the entire public. Right? We want to make everyone aware of this beautiful movement, this beautiful philosophy, and ensure that all of us who are around, people who are around us, they take the benefit of this movement and make their current lives perfect. Right? So that is one thing we can take away. And the other one, which Prabhupada further qualifies, is that Maharaj Parikshit was the devotee of first order. And see, one important thing here is that though Maharaj Parikshit was vested with so many beautiful attributes, you've seen how different qualities of him being righteous, how him being having all the powers, him being able to, a lot of comparisons were given in earlier shlokas. Now, despite all the good qualifications, the personality that Maharaj Parikshit had, he was humble enough to ask for consultation. He was his ability to consult higher authorities for any day-to-day activities he needed to perform. Right? And first of all, so the qualification of a ruler is mentioned here. A good ruler is one who's completely vested with good qualities. He's like Prabhupada mentions in many purports. He's like that mango tree who's bearing so many rich, plush, plumpy fruits, right? Juicy fruits. Imagine a mango tree with so many mangoes, which are juicy, plumpy, very, very rasada. And because of the weight of these fruits, the tree bends because of the weight of these fruits. So similarly, Maharaj Parikshit had so many beautiful qualities, but he was humble, and he would be able to consult the superior authorities around him. Now this is a nice leeway into what is the qualification of those authorities, right? So first of all, they should be following Vedic instructions, Vedic literatures, right? They are more responsible than modern elected executive heads because they are obliged great authorities because they follow Vedic injunctions, right? And they wouldn't craft a policy which is for the interim. Like, today it's convenient for me to create a policy, so let me do that. Tomorrow I'll change it. No, they will create policies which will endure the test of time. For example, what should be applicable to humans? The whole definition of praja, very interestingly, didn't just include the human beings in that particular kingdom, but also the animals. The definition of praja is inclusive of animals. Right? So therefore, all the policies that you would create would be fully inclusive. We talk about inclusive society today, right? How many policies include the animals also? It's very only sections of humankind is included, but animals are not included. But these great men used to include animals also in everything, right? And they had great sages to follow, like Manu, Yagyavalkya, Parashar, and other sages, and their policies were timeless. So, first of all, the rules and regulations were standard and without a law or defect. Why is that so? Why would their rules not have any defect? Which we see that in today's world, every time there's a rule, there is a enactment, there is a addendum, or there is a revision, or there is something or the other that keeps happening, right? So, but the rules set by our great sages that used to hold the test of time. Why is that so? Anyone can answer?
Prabhuji, could it be because they were following the Vedic injunctions?
Yes, wonderful answer. They are following Vedic injunctions, and anything else to supplement? Anybody?
Following their gurus?
Yes, wonderful point. They are following their gurus, right? So they're following a parampara. They're not disconnected from a parampara. So, for example, Manu Smriti, right? All the laws of Manu would be considered. So they would follow great men. They would not invent something that is suitable or sounds logical to them, right? It's basically they are always tied to an inheritance. They themselves are following the Vedic injunctions, and they are essentially men who had the best interests of the kingdom in mind. They didn't have any, for example, if you look at contemporary legislators, MPs, see the underlying problem is in all the rules that they enact, there's a bias of selfishness. Right? If I enact this rule, does it make me rich? Does it give me an undue, unfair advantage? So people are thinking from that perspective. So, but the rulers back then and the authorities who used to guide those rulers, they were always unbiased. They were always looking at the greater and larger interests of the humankind. And therefore, they would enact things which would stand the test of time. So, one important side effect here is that when the authorities are good, you get the best rules, best policies without any additional expense. So today, even when all the MLAs, MPs, they do get fat salary. In fact, we see every year there's a revision, and they award themselves very unfair hikes, right? But whatever they're drawing, whatever the money they're making for themselves, they're not passing down the goodness to any of the individuals in the society. So essentially, they would basically keen to give protection to man because the king would also be including animals. So they would also instruct him. They would not advise. So they wouldn't advise king to give protection to man and instruct him to kill the poor animals. So things like anything which is done without any prior consideration of the fact that animals are also jivatmas at the end of the day, and they have as much entitlement to the kingdom as any human being. That was always considered. So they were all self-realized souls, and they knew perfectly how all living beings in the state would be happy, both in this life and in the next. How would they know this? Anybody has an answer? How they knew perfectly that all living entities in the state would be happy, both in this life and the next? How are they so sure that in the next life also they will be happy? Anybody can answer this? Next one.
Prabhuji, a devotee will be happy because he will be doing anything to please the Lord. So once the Lord is pleased, he is also happy. So when he is doing devotional service or doing anything to please the Lord, he is also happy.
Wonderful. Very good point, Mataji. And yes, anybody else?
Yeah, Prabhuji, because they already know the mission, what is the purpose of human life, and they are all only focused on the welfare of the people and citizens. So
essentially, they're Krishna conscious, right? They know that what is the ultimate goal of life, what is the objective of life. They're very clear, and they would give instructions to the king to ensure that everyone in the praja, everyone who's part of the praja, is able to lead his life in a Krishna conscious way, right? In the sense that they knew that it wasn't always about eating, drinking, marrying, making merry, and enjoying. That we have these four regs, right, as an example. And they were philosophers in the real sense, and they knew what is the mission of life, to attain Krishna Prem, right? And to break the cycle of birth and death. Now, when someone is very clear about the mission of life, that one basically has to, by means of Krishna Prem, he can eliminate the cycle of birth and death as a side effect. What happens is that he's very clear that this person is going to be fully blissful. He will get the qualities of a Sachidananda Vigraha, not just in this life, but life for lifetimes to come, because he will go back to Godhead at some point. So under all these obligations, the advisory council would give correct direction, and the king would, himself being a qualified devotee, would scrutinizingly follow them for the welfare of the state. So it's such a perfect world, right, where people who are advising are pure, the person who's getting advised is pure, and the people are also pure. So it's a perfect world. So and there was no one unhappy in the state, right, because of this, be it man or animal, right? So any thoughts around why one needs to be inclusive of animals also in the kingdom? Why to look after animals? Why can't they? Because animals have lower consciousness. Or why can't they be eliminated? Why is it that they need to be looked after?
Even they have soul, and the Paramatma is within each and every living entity.
Yes, wonderful answer, Deval Mataji. Very nice answer. Yes, that's correct. And what we are also doing as a as a service to animals also, when we do not interfere in their life cycle, right? Their life cycle is that when they are administered by people who have higher consciousness, animals will also evolve to higher consciousness, if not in the current birth, in the next one. So you're allowing them to pass their time. They are getting all the association of wise men, the right set of people. So they will get a good birth next time around. And there is a moral and spiritual upliftment for those animals also. So such a beautiful society we are talking about, right? Of course, we are at the moment at a juncture where nothing seems to be going right, but we can at least read from these scriptures on what's the right thing to do and try to learn that and see how we can apply it to our day-to-day lives. So yes, so we'll go to the next one. Sa uttarasya tanayam upayema iravati janme jayati chaturas tasyam utpadayat sutan.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Bhargavi Mataji and Sudha Mataji are raising their hands. Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
please, Mataji. Go ahead.
Bhargavi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Please.
स उत्तरस्य तनयाम् उपयेम इरावतीं जनमे जय आदिंश्चतुरस् तस्याम् उत्पादयत् सुतान्.
Wonderful, Mataji. Let's go ahead.
Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. King Parikshit married the daughter of King Uttara and begot 4 sons, headed by Maharaja Janamejaya. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes. Anybody wants to read the purport?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Pranam. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Maharaja Uttara was a son of Virata and maternal uncle of Maharaja Parikshit. Iravati, being the daughter of Maharaja Uttara, was a cousin sister of Maharaja Parikshit, but cousin brothers and sisters were allowed to get married if they did not belong to the same Gotra or family. In the Vedic system of marriage, the importance of the Gotra or family was stressed. Arjuna also married Subhadra, although she was his maternal cousin sister. Janmejaya, one of the Rajarishi kings and the famous son of Maharaja Parikshit. His mother's name was Iravati, or according to some, Madravati. Maharaja Janmejaya begot 2 sons of the names Nyatanika and Shankukarna. He celebrated several sacrifices in the Kurukshetra pilgrimage site, and he had 3 younger brothers named Shrutasena, Ugrasena, and Bhimasena. Bhimasena too. He invaded Takshashila, Ajanta, and he decided to avenge the unlawful curse upon his great father, Maharaja Parikshit. He performed a great sacrifice called Sarpa Yajna to kill the race of serpents, including the Takshaka, which had bitten his father to death. On request from many influential demigods and sages, he had to change his decision to kill the race of snakes. But despite stopping the sacrifice, he satisfied everyone concerned in the sacrifice by rewarding them properly. In the ceremony, Mahamuni Vyasadeva also was present, and he personally narrated the history of the battle of Kurukshetra before the king. Later on, by the order of Vyasadeva, his disciple Vaishampayana narrated before the king the subject matter of Mahabharata. He was much affected by his great father's untimely death and was very anxious to see him again, and he expressed his desire before the great sage Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva also fulfilled his desire. His father was present before him, and he worshipped both his father and Vyasadeva with great respect and pomp. Being fully satisfied, he most munificently gave charity to the Brahmanas present at the sacrifice. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So there is an interesting description here. So let's understand this relationship here as much as possible. So Maharaj Virat is essentially the one who gave kind of shelter to the Pandavas, right, at the time of the Agyata Parva, right, where they had to be incognito. So Uttara, there are 2 Uttaras here. So one is the son of Virata, and there is Uttara, that is with the hyphenated A, who's the daughter. So Maharaj Uttara and Uttara are brother and sister. Right? Uttara, his sister, married whom? She married Abhimanyu. And Abhimanyu's and Uttara's son is Parishit. Right? Now, what are we talking about? So let's unpack this a bit. So I talked about Uttara and Uttara being brother and sister. So Uttara, the son, the brother's daughter is Iravati. So Parishit Maharaj is essentially married his uncle's daughter. Correct? Because his mother is Uttara, and Uttara's brother is Maharaj Uttara, and his daughter is Iravati. So he's marrying whom? He's marrying his uncle's daughter. So therefore, she becomes a cousin sister Now, it's very common practice in South to marry uncle's daughter like that, Bua's son like that. So, and that was allowed, that was permissible. The only distinguishing factor then was that one should not marry someone in the same Gotra. Even today, when one looks up astrology, if someone is, let's say, a Bharatwaja Gotra and somebody else, they get an alliance from Bharatwaja Gotra, immediately they'll stop saying, no, no, not in the same Gotra. Because anyone in the same Gotra is seen as a blood relation, right? Someone who's like brother or sister, so they don't marry. But cousins can be of different Gotra, so that was permissible in the Vedic times. So therefore, that is mentioned here. So Janamejaya, who's basically son of Parishit, he got sons and their description is there, Nyanatika and Sankukarna, their mention is there. And, what they achieved, all that is there. Now, he performed Maharaj Parishit. So, he invaded Takshashila, Ajanta, and he decided to avenge the unlawful curse upon his great father, Maharaj Parishit. He performed a great sacrifice called Sarpa Yagya to kill the race of serpents, including Takshaka. Now, why is he performing Sarpa Yagya? Anyone knows why Janamejaya is performing Sarpa Yagya?
Because I think
Krishna Prabhuji,
Yes.
yes, Parikshit Maharaj was dead, was
Curse.
ended his life by his curse of, he was bitten by Takshaka.
Correct. So, since he was bitten by Takshaka, he had an animosity to the entire snake world, the reptile world itself, and more particularly snakes. So, on request from many influential demigods, he had to change his decision to kill the race of snakes. But despite stopping the sacrifice, he satisfied everyone concerned in the sacrifice by rewarding them properly. So, he finally got stopped because of the fact that it will wipe out the entire snake as a reptile itself. So Mahamuni Vyasadev also was present and he narrated the history of Battle of Kurukshetra before the king. Okay, so this was necessary. Why? Because otherwise, unless one kind of tells Janamejaya that what's really transpired, and you should not be wiping out the entire snake as a snake as a classification of animal kingdom. He wouldn't stop. So later on, this order, his disciple Vaishampayana narrated before the king the subject matter of Mahabharata. Actually, there's a very interesting description about how Mahabharata was heard by Janmejaya. Anyone knows? Anyone knows this?
Can you repeat the question, Prabhuji?
How was the
How
entire...
Mahabharata was
Yes,
heard
ma'am.
by Janamejaya.
Yes.
But I think Prabhuji, this story was told by Vyasadeva himself only.
Okay. No, but he is instructed Vaishampayana to narrate. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I
Yes.
think when he was doing Sarpayaga Yagna, that time the dog will come and then try to touch the these things like oblations, they say, right? The sacrifice thing. So in that relation, just remember widely like that. Maybe I may be wrong. And that is again related to that when the Dharmaraj will be going to in the last moment with his wife and brothers, Draupadi, and the time the last animal will come is the dog. And I think that the dog will be the dog's puppy will be eating the oblin, something like that, and then it's like a related thing actually, where the Mahabharata ends, this thing starts like that. Something I widely remember like that. I'm not sure. Sorry if I'm wrong.
Okay, Mataji. So, see what happens is the best way. See, how many shlokas are there in Mahabharata?
1
Anybody
lakh.
knows? 1 lakh? Close, very close. 1,25,000, right? Now, if I were to say that let's cover Mahabharata in a short while, how many of us? First of all, I don't have the capability, but neither any of us have the time, right? So, how do you? And this is a very interesting tidbit. I'll try to find the exact shloka, but this is what I've heard. Now, what happened exactly was, so this disciple Vaishampayan, he wanted to give the entire Mahabharata, recite the entire Mahabharata before Janamejaya. Right? Now, Janamejaya was actually not in a mood to hear Mahabharata at all. He basically he had no interest in it. So then, Vaishampayana uttered a shloka. He's saying, I'm kind of transliterating it. It's not in the same tone as Vaishampayana is given to Janamejaya, but he says something like, uh, there are two fools. One is Duryodhana and the other is Ravana, right? And he says both died because of their foolishness and greed, something like that. He gives that. And then he stops. That's the end of Mahabharata. I'm leaving. Then Janamejaya gets curious. You talked about two people I don't know. Ravana, maybe I know Ravana, but I don't know Duryodhana. Who's Duryodhana? And what foolishness did he do? Why did he get killed in a battle? What happened? So he uttered something which made Janamejaya curious. And then, the story starts. Okay, then who's this character? Okay, then gets answered. Oh, then who's this character? It goes like a lawn tennis back and forth game, right? Where one is serving, the other is rallying like that. So on similar lines, just by evoking curiosity, and why I'm talking about this specific incident is that sometimes when the recipient or the Shrota is not tuned in, then you can use certain ways, certain mechanisms, certain methods to get his complete attention. You say something and then you stop. Okay, what happened? Then the curiosity builds. And once curiosity builds, right, anything can get done. So those 1,25,000 verses were given to Janamejaya. And interestingly, at the end, even Janamejaya was saying that, what are the benefits of hearing Mahabharata? Anybody knows? What does Mahabharata talk about in general?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Mm.
Maybe in Mahabharata we can able to see the how to live and principles of living. And then this enviousness. And then how we will destroy our destination. And then
How to live with righteousness, dharma.
Correct. Very nice. So what else is there apart from dharma?
Family values.
Okay. What else? So essentially, Mahabharata talks about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Correct? These four things Mahabharata talks about. So what at the end, Janamejaya is asked by Vaishampayana, which one did you like? Dharma part of it, artha part of it, kama part of it, moksha part of it. He says, I'm not interested in any four of them. None of them I'm interested. I'm actually I'm desirous of this particular thing, that you continue to recite Mahabharata and I'll continue to be a recipient of it. So I am happy with that benediction, right? So, so that is how a curious listener gets attracted to a message, right? Similarly, Bhagavatam, of course, there is vivid description of Krishna, his pastimes. It's actually Lord personified. But the beauty of Bhagavatam is this discussion that we are having, right? the fact that we are talking about such great personalities who have led their lives in such a way that even today, 5,000, 7,000 years later, we are able to still discuss about them, and we don't stop. We don't stop short of being able to discuss vividly what they did, how they led their lives, what can we learn from them, etc. So that's something I wanted to bring as this conversation that happens between Janamejaya and Vaishampayana. So, okay. So
Krishna
now,
Prabhuji,
yes,
we are not aware of this Bhagavatam. But now we are not able to miss even a single class. So the thing is how attraction is there in Bhagavatam.
Yes, yes.
So we are not aware. Don't simply we know something else. But hearing regularly attending the classes, attending two, 3, 4 classes also, the curiosity is there. We were not losing the enthusiasm. So that is the quality of this Bhagavatam, Prabhuji.
Yes, yes, yes.
Everything is in Bhagavatam.
Yes, absolutely. So we can get life lessons. We can get, see, anytime we are distressed, anytime, it's very, but obvious. We're all human beings, right? And we have our own times, up and down times. So when we turn towards these pages of Bhagavatam, let's say we are kind of going through tough times, then we hear the pastimes of Dhruv Maharaj, Parshit Maharaj, Pandavas. We draw inspiration, right? We see that, okay, we didn't have someone threatening us for life, right? These people, these personalities were actually threatened for their life itself. Somebody's not poisoning us, somebody's not killing us right now. But yes, we feel the pain. But these personalities have gone through that, right? With Prahlad Maharaj, some Hiranyakashipu was pushing him from the hill top, from the mountains. Somebody's grabbing him and holding him inside a fire. So we are not going through that. So when we hear pastimes of such great personalities, such great devotees, we actually get a very strong commitment towards how we can lead our life without being bothered by what's happening around us. Right? We get that inspiration. Right? And that's exactly the message of Bhagavatam on how we can get inspired, how we can get curious, and how we can solve for ourselves in this life and go back to God. So that's the message of Bhagavatam. We'll go to the next one.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes. Yes,
Krishnamurti Prabhuji, Divya Desai Mataji, Deval Mataji, and Padma Mataji. 4 people are raising their hands.
Oh, yes, yes. Sorry, I can't see it from here. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So let Krishnamurti Prabhuji read Shloka, Divya Desai Mataji translation, and purport be shared by Deval Mataji and Padma.
Yes, yes. I'll just read. Yes, thank you so much, Mataji. I'll just read, said the shloka once. Ajaharasva medam strin Gangayam bhuri dakshinan Saratvatvam gurum kritva Deva yatrakshi gocharaha.
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes,
yes. Hare Krishna. Ajaharashmedam strin Gangayam bhuri dakshinan Sharadvatam gurum krutva Deva yatrakshi gocharaha.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Pranams Prabhuji.
Yes.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Maharaja Parishit, after having selected Kripacharya for guidance and his spiritual master, performed 3 horse sacrifices on the banks of the Ganges. These were executed with sufficient rewards for the attendants, and at these sacrifices, even the common man could see demigods. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody wants to read the purport?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Purport by His Divinity Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It appears from this verse that interplanetary travel by the denizens of higher planets is easy. In many statements in Bhagavatam, we have observed that the demigods from heaven used to visit this earth to attend sacrifices performed by influential kings and emperors. Herein also we find that during the time of the horse sacrifice ceremony of Maharaja Parikshit, the demigods from other planets were visible even to the common man due to the sacrificial ceremony. The demigods are not generally visible to common men as the Lord is not visible. But as the Lord, by his causeless mercy, descends to be visible to the common man. Similarly, the demigods also become visible to the common man by their own grace. Although celestial beings are not visible to the naked eyes of the inhabitants of this earth, it was due to the influence of Maharaja Parikshit that the demigods also agreed to be visible. The kings used to spend lavishly during such sacrifices as a cloud distributes rains. A cloud is nothing but another form of water, or in other words, the waters of the earth transforms into clouds. Similarly, the charity made by the kings in such sacrifices was but another form of the taxes collected from the citizens. But as the rains fall down very lavishly and appear to be more than necessary, the charity made by such kings also seems to be more than what the citizens need. Satisfied citizens will never organize agitation against the king, and thus there was no need in changing the monarchical state. Hare Krishna, Padma Mataji, you can continue. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji.
You carry on. Hare Krishna, Mataji, you carry on.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Even for a king like Maharaja Parikshit, there was need of spiritual master for guidance. Without such guidance, one cannot make progress in spiritual life. The spiritual master must be bona fide, and one who wants to have self-realization must approach and take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master to achieve real success. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Deval Mataji. So, yes, a lot is quite self-explanatory in this purport. Let's pick out some important points here. So, yeah, so one is the visibility of demigods, right? So, by grace of Lord, Lord is never visible, but by His mercy, we can actually see Him, if He gives us the vision to see Him. So that's one thing is mentioned, and that's true with demigods also. So as demigods come about to meet some great men, sometimes what I've also heard is that the demigods also come to hear when Bhagavatam is being discussed, as an example, right? So, so they're not visible, but they exist. They are there.
You sure?
Yes. Reboot. Okay. So it was due to the influence of Maharaj Parikshit that the demigods also agreed to be visible. Otherwise, they are not visible. What else? And then there is one interesting concept I wanted to discuss here. So there are so-called mini wealth creators, right? Many of them talk about, what strategies one should follow to force multiply their wealth. Very surprisingly, many of them unanimously agree in one point that, they talk about a lot of sophisticated compounding, concepts of compounding. Maybe somebody talks about investment in the right mutual fund. Somebody talks about things like picking the right stocks, a lot of investment strategies. But one thing they unanimously agree is that one of the force multipliers of wealth is giving abundant charity. So what everybody agrees that as we give more, we automatically receive more, right? It's but obvious, and that was well understood by the kings, right? They would give a lot of donation, lot of charity, and they themselves would get a lot because the Supreme Personality of Godhead would bestow them with all the gifts so that they can continue to do the charity, right? And the satisfied citizens will never organize agitation against the king, and there was no need in changing the monarchical state. See, one thing we often we talk about in the current state, and why I'm comparing this is basically we're trying to compare or benchmark ourselves against a perfect world, right? Here, in today's state, a monarchical state or almost becomes dictatorial, right? There's nothing called king-led, but these days people talk about dictatorships. So typically, most of the dictators or dictatorships that exist, nobody's happy because dictators have their way, right? They're not worried about getting overthrown. They're not worried about people's interests. They will do what they think is right. They will do what will please them, right? It's like someone getting infinite powers, and when someone gets so much of powers, it only makes him more arrogant, less humble, and he will think that, this whole world is at my beck and call, right? And he will do what he thinks is right. And that doesn't leave people happy. But here, despite the fact that it's a monarchical state that is led by one king who cannot be changed, unless he dies and he gets replaced by the system itself, one has to contend with king, good or bad, right? But the kings then always used to seek good advice, and the praja used to be very happy, and they were never keen in changing a monarchical state, which is so different from what we see today. So even for a king like Maharaj Parishit, there was a need for a spiritual master for guidance. Again, it highlights that no matter how much great a person could be, he always needs guidance. So even something that we can take away in our day-to-day sadhana, see, we may, by the will of the providence, we may get a lot of good qualities. We may become proficient in Bhagavatam. We may do well in terms of our oratory skills. We may have a lot of people listening in, tuning in to hear us. But we are also as much vulnerable when it comes to problems, issues, and we need to have some higher-ups from whom we can get some good advice. Right? And Maharaj Parishit was very, he had his own spiritual master for guidance. And so he always felt that way. So without guidance, one cannot make progress in spiritual life. Can anyone give an example why guidance in spiritual life is needed? Or reasons why guidance is needed in spiritual life?
So that we are not getting into any mental speculations. We are not understanding things as how we feel. Like we can think anything by reading this purport itself. We may get different thoughts, but actually that is not the right one. When we hear from the right source, we get the actual meaning what Prabhupada wants to tell. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful, wonderful point, Mataji. Very nice point. Anybody else wants to add why we need guidance in spiritual life?
Also, Prabhuji, to go step by step, right? We need that guidance straight away. I mean, when you want to progress, like we want to go to the next level, definitely we take expert guidance. So
Wonderful.
for that, good.
Yes. We have those bhakti steps, right? From Sevaka to Prabhupada Ashraya. We have those bhakti steps. So each step, when we push ourselves, our limits, we seek guidance on how I can get to the next level. Yes, Sindhu Mataji, very well said. So we need guidance to grow and mature in spiritual life. Anything else why we need guidance? Anybody? Any further points on why we need guidance? Okay, I'll give a very practical application of it. See, what happens is, many times there are decisions to be made. Like, for example, due to certain material pressures, we may be kind of not progressing well in our bhakti. We may be kind of caught in a job where we are not able to give time for bhakti. We may be having some personal difficulties, personal issues. That could be family issues. Like, for example, certain members of the family are not conducive to bhakti. Like that, we have many such problems. It could be a concoction of, not concoction, it's a mixture of material, spiritual problems manifesting in such a way that we are not able to do well in our bhakti. We are not able to chant properly. So we need guidance, right? At all points that, okay, I'm feeling lost. I'm not able to chant well. Best is to get guidance, right? Not to self-correct. Sometimes when people hear your point of view, they'll be able to give you a point of view that you couldn't think of, right? So have, higher-ups with whom we can have a very open conversation. Okay, we are facing difficulties in congregation. Yes, talk about it, right? Let's have a person with whom we can actually speak and get some guidance. So like that, there are many such issues. Of course, these issues have to be spoken in good confidence and with a good understanding, good confidentiality between the receiver and the one who is sharing the issues. And yes, so that is forgiven. So the spiritual master must be bona fide. So now the guidance we need is from spiritual master. Of course, we will have senior Vaishnavas to guide us, because many cases spiritual masters may not be available at our beck and call or at our convenience, right? So we basically talk to some senior Vaishnavas, get some guidance. But generally, what's the best way to get guidance from spiritual masters? Anyone has an idea? Assuming we don't get a personal appointment with them, but how can we get guidance from spiritual master?
Follow his instructions, Prabhuji.
Yes. How do we follow his instructions?
Vani Seva.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
By reading
Wonderful.
scriptures.
Yes,
That's
yes. Wonderful. I think someone called out Vani Seva. I was looking for that answer.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Because spiritual masters, sometimes they will leave us, right? We can't do Vapu Seva. So we have to rely on Vani Seva. The other thing is that many spiritual masters may be, they may be abroad, they may be physically far away from us. So they are giving discourses, they are giving classes on a day-to-day basis. So we hear that on a day-to-day basis. And then we follow the instructions. So most of the instructions that spiritual master wants to give anyone is there in their discourses, is there in their classes. So when we hear their classes and make notes, we actually get an opportunity to follow these instructions. So yes, that's correct. So the spiritual master must be bona fide, and one who wants to have and one who wants to have self-realization must approach and take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master to achieve real success. So how do we know a spiritual master is bona fide?
Comes in that parampara, Prabhuji, the discipline. Madhava Gaudiya Vaishnava, that parampara.
Yes. You're firing all aces, Mataji. Yes. Yes, that's a wonderful point. Yes. Anybody else wants to add anything?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Prabhuji, they will repeat as it is from their instructor.
Yes. Wonderful point. Yes, they will not add their own personal flavor. They may improvise, right? But they don't dilute the meaning. They don't reduce the meaning. Yes. And what else? They are Krishna conscious primarily. They are in the parampara. They are representing the message in its completeness. Essentially, yes, anything else that anybody wants to? Yeah, they're following Vedas, they're following the Vedic injunctions, and they're chanting the holy names.
Also, they follow Prabhupada.
Yes, correct. They're coming in the parampara. Yes, they follow Prabhupada. Yes. Yes, I think we are pretty much done. Let me just have a relook. I think I was on dot 1 to 1. Just make sure that I covered all the slides. Yeah. So I covered up to third, 1.16.3. So I think we can end our class here unless there are any further questions. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
I have a small question, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, you were telling about that mango tree example, right? That how humble. In relation to what actually? Before the fruits are coming, the tree stands very tall, right? So once so many mangoes have come, I mean not the fruits, mangoes have come, they bend down.
Correct. So what happens is, yes, Mataji, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I was thinking to which it is linked example.
Oh, okay. Sorry if I didn't make it very clear. So, just as a person who has all good qualities, right? These good qualities are representative of the mangoes that are there, the plum mangoes, the ripe mangoes that are there in the tree, right? They are compared to that. These fruits are so tasty, right? So, all good qualities that a person have compared to the fruits of the tree. When one has all these good qualities, he bends in humility. Similarly, a tree which is laden with fruits bends, right? It doesn't go up, it bends. So that comparison between tree and the person is based on the qualities he carries. Such qualities don't make him arrogant, but they bring the humility in him. Is that clear, Madhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yes. So even this analogy is part of Shastras. It's there in the Shastras also.
Yes, Prabhuji, I've read this many places, like
Yes.
Canto 6 also when we were reading.
Yes.
This
Yes.
example was quoted.
Yes, brothers. Yes, if unless there's anything else, we'll end our
Hare
class here.
Krishna Prabhuji, we have sloka recitation.
Okay, Mataji, if you don't mind, I'll have to drop because I have to get some other
Prabhuji.
thing done. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. Please continue. I'll kind of stop sharing and leave.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
I hope when I leave, it doesn't end the meeting.
No, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So those who would like to do the sloka recitation, can you please raise your hands?
Yes, Mataji. Shall I start?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Pranams. 1.5.11. Tadvat Vishargo Janata Viplavo Yasmin Prati Shlokam Abhaddavat Yapi Namani Anantasya Yashun Kitani Shrinvanti Gayanti Grihnanti Sadavaha. 5.17. Tvaktva Swadharmam Charanambujam Hare Bhajan Apakvotapate Tato Yadi Yatrakva Bhadram Abhyutamushyakim Kovarta Apto Bhajatam Swadharmataha.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Bhargavi Mataji, I think you are raising your hands.
Yes, Mataji. 1.5.18. Tasyeva heto prayateta kovido na labhyate yad brahmatam upari adaha tallabhyate dukkavad anyatah sukam kalena sarvatra gabira ramhasa. 1.5.22. Idam hi pumsas tapasah shrutasya va shvishtasya suktasya cha buddhidattayoh avichutortah kavibhir nirupito yat uttama shloka gunanuvarnanam. Hare Krishna,
Thank you,
Mataji.
Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Dinesh Prabhuji, would you like to recite?
Yes, thank you. 1.5.38 Hare Krishna. Iti murti abhidanena mantra murtim amurtikam yajate yajna purusham sa samyak darshanah puman. 1.7.4 Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite amale apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatad apashrayam. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Divya Desai Mataji, I can see your hands.
हरे कृष्णा यया संहोयितो जीव आत्मानं त्रिगुणात्मकं परो अपि मनुते नर्तं तत्कृतं चापि पद्यते अनर्थोपशमं साक्ष्या भक्तियोगमदोक्षजे लोकस्या जानथो विद्वांश्चक्रे सात्वत संहितां. हरे कृष्ण माताजी.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Dandavad pranams. Hare Krishna, Navkishori Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavad Pranam.
Mataji, can
Hare
you
Bol.
read only this one? Because there is Dhanashri Mataji also raising her hands. So you can read one and
Yes, no
Dhanashri
problem.
Mataji will read
Sure,
one.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, no problem. Sure, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yasyam Veshuyamānāyam Krishne Paramapurushe Bhaktirutpadyate Pumsaha Shokamoha Bhayapaha. Hare Krishna
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji. Let her recite Mataji. Tomorrow I will recite.
No problem, Mataji. You were also raising your hands. No, you can do this. No problem.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dandavad Pranam. Thank you. Sutta
Namaste.
uvacha Atma Ramascha Munayo Nirgrantha Api Urukrame Purvante Haitu Kim Bhakti Mitha Bhuta Guno Hari. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So let's all together say Vancha Kalpatrupescha. Hare Krishna. पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो
नमो नमः।
अनंत कोटि
अनंतकोटि वैष्णव की जय।
श्रील प्रभुपाद की
श्रील प्रभुपाद
जय
की
श्रीमद्
जय।
भागवतम की
भागवतम
जय।
की जय।
Thank you everybody.
Thank you Mataji. Hare Krishna.
माताजी हरे
Hare Krishna, the Lord
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
राम माता जी।
Pranam.